So in Module 2, we will discuss the structures as well as the functions of the heart. Although the term heart is an English word, cardiac terminology can be traced back to the Latin term cardia with a K. Cardiology is the study of the heart, and cardiologists are the physicians who specialize in the heart. The basic organization of the cardiovascular system is that it consists of a muscular pump and two circuits of blood vessels. The muscular pump refers to the heart, and it is actually two side-by-side pumps. The right side of the heart receives oxygen-poor blood from the tissues by way of the systemic veins, and here that oxygen-poor blood is represented in blue. Also, the right side of the heart is located on the left side of this diagram because we assume that this heart is in anatomical position of someone that we are observing. The left side of the heart receives oxygen-rich blood from the lungs by way of the pulmonary veins. Oxygen-rich blood is typically shown in red, and it's shown in red in this diagram here. The two circuits of blood vessels are the pulmonary circuit and the systemic circuit. The pulmonary circuit carries blood to and from the lungs, and the systemic circuit carries blood to and from all of the other tissues and organs of the body that do not include the lungs. So the heart and blood vessels are therefore the transport system that moves blood to the lungs as well as to the body's tissues. The heart is the muscular pump that puts the blood into motion, and the blood vessels are the pipelines for carrying that blood. The average adult human heart is about the size of your fist and weighs anywhere between 9 and 12 ounces. We see that cardiac muscle responds to exercise in much the same way that skeletal muscle responds, in that exercise will increase the size of the muscle cells, but it won't increase the number of muscle cells in the heart. This is a phenomenon that's known as hypertrophy, and we also see that the heart will become enlarged in cases of things like chronic hypertension, which is chronic high blood pressure. So the heart is located within the thoracic cavity, specifically the mediastinum, that is the space between the right and the left lungs. It is posterior to the sternum and anterior to the vertebral column. The heart kind of vertically is situated between rib 2 and the fifth intercostal space, which is the space between ribs 5 and 6. The heart sits on the superior surface of the diaphragm, and approximately 2/3 of the heart lies to the left of the midline. So this diagram shows a superior view looking down into the thoracic cavity. We can see the right and the left lungs. The vertebral column is located posteriorly, while the sternum is located anteriorly. We also see this folded structure between the heart and the vertebra. This is the esophagus, and the esophagus is located just posterior to the heart. The base of the heart, which is not labeled in this diagram, is found on the superior surface. This is where the great arteries, as well as the large veins, will make their connection to the heart. The base of the heart is slightly angled, that is, it's not situated perfectly vertical, and it points towards the right shoulder. At the other end of the heart, we find a cone-shaped point that is referred to as the apex, and the apex points towards the left hip. The inferior or diaphragmatic surface is the part of the heart that rests on the diaphragm muscle. It mostly consists of the walls of the left ventricle, but it also does have some of the right ventricle that rests on the inferior or diaphragmatic surface. The apical impulse is the movement of the heart apex during the contraction of the heart, and it can be palpated or felt between the 5th and 6th left ribs. The heart consists of 2 receiving chambers and 2 pumping chambers. The 2 receiving chambers are collectively called the atria, and there is a right and a left atrium. The atria receive blood through the large veins that are returning blood from the tissues or from the lungs. So it is the right atria is receiving blood that is coming from the tissues, and the left atrium is receiving blood that's coming from the lungs. So keep in mind that veins are always returning blood to the heart. The two pumping chambers are referred to as the ventricles. There is a right and a left ventricle in the heart, and they function to push blood into the large arteries, and those large arteries will then carry blood either to the lungs or to the tissues. Arteries are structures that are always going to carry blood away from the heart.